everybody, Jason of Notice Revolution Cave, Saturday night. And we're going to do a very abbreviated Nup All Night tonight. It is 10:35. And I just got back from the gym and chugged a whole bunch of Gatorade with some creatine in it. And I'm hiccuping. And I don't even know why I'm taking the creatine. I think I'm too old to make massive gains or significant gains or any kind of gains. First and foremost, I was going to do this in a separate video. I don't like mixing this topic with the LJNs. It stains the LJNs, but I don't want to make a separate video and draw more attention to it. The issue seems to be resolved with Mr. Watson. Apparently it's over and done with, I assume, after reading his last message. So leave it alone. It's all over. I will probably put the hater video on private, even though I don't think my drinking game video is going anywhere. But play it if you want. I mean, if you're up for getting hammered, go ahead and play it. But I will probably private the hater video, and I ask all of you to not leave any comments on that video on his channel. The video that I linked, the F Jason Nup video, go watch it if you want. Watch all of his stuff, support his channel, subscribe to him. Just don't leave any negative comments towards him on that particular video, please. And of course, thank you all for the support. I appreciate it. That is over and done with. All right, LJN's Revisited. We're up to a figure that, I don't know, should it have been made? Should it have been made? That's what we're going to call this video. Should it have been made? Look, when you're doing the LJNs, so as a kid, and even as an adult, I didn't realize how thin the WWF rosters are and were during particular years. And I think there's a website online, probably a really old website, that lists all of the main roster people during a particular year, 84, 85, 86, so on. It doesn't list the Salvatore Belomos, the Mario Mancinis, the Rusty Brookses. It doesn't list them. It lists the superstars, I guess. And as a kid, you look at you're watching wrestling, you think there's 1,000 wrestlers. You think there's 1,000,000 wrestlers. You think there's an unbelievable, infinite amount of wrestlers on the roster. But in reality, there's like 28, 29, 30 particular superstars on the roster back then. And whether that website was 100% correct or not, it blew my mind to see how few there were on the roster. So when this figure comes out in 87, go and look at the roster, and it probably wasn't that deep. And if you're making figures in 87 and you want to capitalize on as many hunks of rubber as you can out on the shelves, because in 87, I mean, it's tearing it up, right? It's huge. So you go through that roster and you say, who can we make a figure of? And this fella was on the roster, and I think therefore deserves a figure. If we're going to try to make as much money as we can, now I don't know how much money this guy made figure-wise, but if we're going to try to make as much money as we can, we got to go through the roster. I think Pedro Morales may have still been on the roster in 87. He could have gotten a figure. Certainly the Moondogs were always hanging out on the roster. They could have gotten figures. I think Sika came in 87 or so. He could have gotten a figure. You know, go down the WrestleMania 3 roster. Butch Reed could have gotten a figure. But we've got, is it 87? Yeah, it's 87. We've got Ted Arcidi. Ted Arcidi the world's strongest man. And I think that there's some legit truth to that at some point in the ESPN World's Strongest Man competitions. I'm sure at one point Ted Arcidi was a strongest man in some particular category, bench press or boulder lift or, whatever they do. You see that I dropped a and a Jesse Ventura in the same, whatever they do with those boulders, I'm sure he held some kind of record. But here we have a Ted Arcidi figure, and he's on the roster, so he gets a figure, and it makes sense. Now, I think this is a tremendous figure. I think this is an absolutely fantastic figure. I love this figure. I have no, knowledge or interest in Ted Arcidi. I know that, Vince McMahon absolutely is madly in love with muscles. So, of course, Ted Arcidi is going to be on his roster. But at least the people in charge of the pushing saw that they didn't have anything really that spectacular in Ted Arcidi other than these extremely large balloon inflated muscles, enhanced extreme steroidal influence, back acne galore, Ted Arcidi. So he didn't do much in the WWF except have a god-awful match with Big John Studd, and I think an equally awful match with Tony Atlas, I think. Or am I misremembering that? Tony Atlas and Ted Arcidi going at it. I don't know. He's a great figure, and I used this figure a great deal. Not this particular figure. It doesn't look like anybody used this figure because it's bright and shiny and new. But I used him as Dr. Death Steve Williams. That's right, a bad guy, Dr. Death Steve Williams, and this kind of muscle character as a bad guy is easy to use and fun to use. So I used Ted Arcidi a lot. I don't think ever once as Ted Arcidi, but as Dr. Death Steve Williams. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's got, take the head off and you've got a potential Scott Steiner, custom. But when I was playing with LJN figures, Scott Steiner wasn't around. So I used him as Dr. Death Steve Williams. That's about it. That's about all I have to say about the Ted Arcidi figure. But we can take a closer look at him right now. Well, folks, look, when it comes to custom LJN stands, there's only one. There's only one that you need to worry about. It's those that are made by 4 Left 3D Creations. How do you get to them? You already know. You go on Etsy, you look up 4 Left 3D Creations, F-O-R-E, 4 Left 3D Creations, and you can get yourself an LJN custom stand. And if you're going to start with any, you may as well start with this Ted Arcidi bench press LJN stand with barbell. Folks, Ted Arcidi, the figure that is questionable at best, belonging in the LJN lineup, gets the best looking stand. 4 Left 3D Creations kills it. And here he is, folks, Ted Arcidi. And as I have said, a fantastic figure. A tremendous figure. Not the best play pose, but those arms are not straight down. They come out a little bit, and I absolutely use the heck out of this figure as Dr. Death Steve Williams, not as Ted Arcidi, but this is a great figure. The barrel chest on Ted Arcidi is fantastic. The bulky balloon-style biceps are fantastic. Those massive pecs are incredible. There's that back, that cobra-looking back. Fantastic figure, questionable roster holder, but there he is, folks. Ted Arcidi, looking good, and absolutely use the heck out of him in the LJN Fed as Dr. Death Steve Williams. Now, if I were to play today, I think I'd have Ted Arcidi be a bad guy. He kind of reminds me of like Brian Cage, you know, from AEW. Just this overly inflated guy who is going to look awful in 20 years if he lives that long. But makes for a great figure. Ted Arcidi, ladies and gentlemen. The weightlifter, high socks, black shoes. He's got the, the Steiner brother outfit on there. Good looking figure. Good looking figure. Better looking custom LJN stand from 4 Left 3D Creations. That is all. We will see you next time. Up next is Ken Patera, the purplest LJN figure there is. We'll see you next time. Good night now.